This video is part of a series of 16 presentations by Crystal Witten, PhD, based on her book, Country Living. See the video description for availability. The free videos can be found as parts 361 to 376 at www.preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com.
Small bites of information daily woven into discussions are very effective for young children. So for example, when the leaves in the spring, when the leaves start to come out on the trees and turn green, you can talk about that process. You can talk about chlorophyll. You can talk about the length of the day. You can talk about the temperatures. And then in the fall, you can talk about as the leaves go from green to being yellow and red and orange and purple, you can talk about the different pigments that are in the leaves, and as the days get shorter, how the green goes away. And these are important things that you can weave into your daily discussions with young children. Keep in mind, facts do not always represent truth. So one fact might be countered by 20 other facts. And so there's always a picture that needs to be presented. And I think children need to know that. They need to understand that. Just because one thing might be true doesn't mean that there's not many counterfacts. And you're going to see that in every area. You're going to see that with the LGBTQ discussion going on. Sure, there's some facts, but the bulk of the facts, the majority of the facts point to there's two genders. Now, I will definitely say there are some variations in genetics, but they're very rare, and certainly we need to be very sensitive to those, to people that have those genetic variations. So, but there are facts, and there's many facts to support two genders. And so I don't want to get caught up in that. I don't want people to not keep listening to this because maybe they disagree with that. But it's important that facts do not always represent truth, and we want the truth. Young children should always be taught which authority takes precedence, and that's always the Bible. Outdoor education is really important, and there's so many schools now coming out with forest education, outdoor education. There's a lot of online resources. I know in the area that I live in, there's 2 or 3 forest schools. There's one that's less than 5 minutes from me, and I'm out in the country. And there's a school about 90 minutes from where I live. They do everything outdoors, year-round. If it's raining, they're outside. If it's snowing, they're outside. If it's hailing, they're outside. Now they have covered areas where they can go under, but they are doing their entire curriculum outdoors. Or you can do a hybrid of that. Some of it, the morning can be outdoors, or the afternoon could be outdoors, or parts of the morning, etc. So outdoor education can be so valuable because kids' nature is an incredible textbook. There's so much to learn. Children should spend time in nature, journaling, photographing, drawing, comparing plants, comparing animals, comparing insects and aquatic life. They can do drawings and descriptions of it, and then look it up on the internet and learn more about it. And how does that fit into the ecosystem? How are the aquatic creatures reliant on their environment? What do they feed on? How long do they live? How long does a fish live? These are questions that can be answered and studied. Children benefit from sunlight. They benefit from electron transfer when they touch a moist part of the earth. Vigorous activity, many outdoor-related phenomenon, getting sunlight. When you get sunlight, you get the sulfated form of vitamin D, and that's very useful. Whereas just taking vitamin D is not necessarily the sulfated form, but when your skin, when the sunlight hits your skin, it's making some pretty awesome vitamin D, which is going to improve your immune system. Children need to learn about nature and how to respect life. And just because we see a bug doesn't mean we squish it or we kill it. Just because we see a frog doesn't mean we're going to capture it and put it in a box. We want to respect their living environment. We want to respect nature in the way that God created it and made it to be. And so that's an important lesson to teach. You can teach age-appropriate survival skills. You can put together an age-appropriate first aid kit and teach your children how to use first aid, what they need, so they don't always have to run to mom when they get an owie. They can do some things for themselves. Teach country living skills such as plant identification, how to build a fire, make a tent, identify animal tracks, mark a trail. These are amazing skills to teach. So when your kids, when their car breaks down and they're out in the country and they're not going anywhere for a while, they can make a small fire. They can not get lost if they're on a hike. These are just important things to know. Children can learn the history of the local land. This is a great thing. They can learn to build makeshift structures. So lots of things that can happen when kids learn outdoors. These are some of the topics that are appropriate for all ages. And really, there's many more topics than what I'm listing here. But for example, Bible topics. Let's study all the Bible characters that lived or traveled in the country. They spent most of their life in the country. Let's study the Bible characters that lived in the city. Let's study the Bible characters that were peaceful and the ones that went to war. And let's study the children in the Bible. That could be a really awesome topic to study. So various different Bible topics I think are wonderful homeschooling study ideas. Reading. Be sure that you read everything your children are reading, or that someone you know has read it and approved it that has similar values. So reading is really incredible, and it's great to know what your children are reading because you can now have conversations with them. So maybe you read a book and your spouse reads a book. And so between the two of you, you're both able to communicate with your children about the books that they've read. Math, we've talked about math and English and grammar, writing, history. Maybe someone in your church or your community is a great historian. And so you might ask them to come over for a couple days and teach your children a certain aspect of history. Feed them, offer to pay them. These are great experiences for your children to have and to learn from other people who have maybe a unique history. I would always recommend being there so you can put things in the right context. Speech, they need to learn how to give speeches, how to write a speech, how to use certain aspects of speaking to get attention. These are important things. Biology, you can teach quite a bit of biology without being a biologist. So get a simple biology textbook. You can go to a used bookstore and find old biology texts. These can help you. Teach what you know out of that biology book. Anatomy and physiology. It's so important that kids learn that a knee is also known as a patella. Their fingers are known as the phalanges. And for them to have a working knowledge of their skeleton. So what can you do? You can buy a skeleton. And the skeleton can show all the different bones, and maybe you can take it apart and put it together. So they learn the bones, learn about the digestive tract. You can learn about the cardiovascular system. You can learn about the immune system. So kids, even small kids, can learn certain things. This reminds me of my friends when I lived in Loma Linda. They were both surgeons. Mom and dad were both surgeons. And one day I'm eating with them at their home, and we're eating collards or kale or something like that. And the 4-year-old boy piped up and said, "Oh, we are now boosting our CYP450 enzymes." And I thought, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And so the parents had these conversations at the table with their children. And, this food does this food does that. And the children learned at a very early age that cruciferous vegetables boost your CYP450 enzymes that are located in the liver and involved in digestion, but also detoxification and sending things that need to be eliminated to the kidneys, and then the kidneys out with the urine. So children at very early ages can learn these concepts, but again, it's based on the parents and the types of conversations that the parents have between each other and between their children, with them and their children. So, do you want your kids to be able to have complex conversations and to understand complex concepts? Then you're going to teach them these things, even if you have to learn along with them. Logic and debate. Oh my goodness. This is so important. Kids need to learn logic. They need to learn all the logical fallacies that are out there. I can't emphasize this enough. And maybe I'll even do a lecture on this at some point. But logic and debate. How do you debate without getting angry or mad? What are good debate techniques? And again, understanding logic is probably going to be very important for debate, but also understanding definitions. So when you learn a new profession, anytime you learn any new area, you learn the definitions, you learn the important terms, the words. And that's a big part of understanding it. When you understand, for example, I'm a nutritionist, so understanding all the nutrients is really important. Which ones are essential, which ones are not essential, which ones are conditionally essential. What are the requirements at each stage of the life cycle? These are very important, and these are kind of complex concepts, but you can get some of this across without necessarily having formal education. Cooking, sewing, upholstery, mechanics, woodworking, drafting. Kids, if they love to draw, let's have them draw a kitchen. Let's have them draw a playroom. Let's have them draw out the garage and what needs to go in a garage. And you can do this with drafting paper, with drafting programs, having a drafting table, and you're teaching a wonderful skill. Gardening, greenhouses, these are topics of education. Physical activities such as canoeing, sailing, hiking, pickleball, tennis. These are all excellent things to learn. Running, track. These are excellent topics. Sailing teaches so many wonderful concepts about the wind, about movement, about the water, the properties of water. So many things are important, and you can actually make them into a learning experience every single day, all day long.
To be aware of new videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to the Preparing for the Time of Trouble channel. For more free videos and downloadable audio podcasts, as well as handouts, go to www.preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com. Topic categories include recordings of live seminar presentations, country living, sustainable gardening, homestead remedies, how to be self-sufficient when the grid goes down, wild edible and medicinal plants, hydrotherapy, and end-time Bible prophecies. To take advantage of these free resources, go to preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com.